Okay, so this is where we had left off with yesterday. And we verbally said it 2 times. And yesterday you actually wrote it down. The best thing that you can do for yourself is that when we start these days, okay, I'll have to ask Mr. Wagner this, but I would like to think that that's how a lot of your college lectures are going to be. The idea that, okay, what did we discuss last time? Where did we leave off with last time? What did we discuss? How does this work? Or something to that effect. So, spit or saliva is a very vague term. Why is that? It's made of different components. And what are those components? Water, mucus, and enzymes. Okay? So, when you see that, what physical component? That's going to be a tough question. You have to think about this. What physical component can you not tell when it comes to saliva? Of those 3 portions, which one is the physical component that you just cannot see? Why is that? You're right. Right, because you know that it's made of water because if yeah, I'm trying to see how I want to state this. Okay, so who can we pick on in here? We don't?
Feelings get too hurt when people pick on you.
Okay, but who was, we said Johnny first, but gets picked on all the time. So who is that?
I'm going to start trying to if they get picked on. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a very boring day. Elena's got her head down on the desk. She's passed out sleeping. So you can physically tell that saliva is made of those components. You can't see the enzymes. So how do you know that water is in there? Because when you drool, right? Are you speaking from experience? Maybe, okay. So also, all of a sudden the bell rings, you get up, you might take your arm and wipe your mouth off, and it feels gooey. Why is that? Because there's mucus in there, and obviously it's wet from the water, but you cannot see the enzymes. That's right. So as you're chewing, what is the function of that mucus? It's not going to break things down, no. Now the water would do that. It's going to make a cohesion factor for it to bind together. Also, what else might it do? The enzymes will do that. You're not wrong entirely, but
it helps that digestion when you have large carbohydrates.
So is that mucus component slippery or sticky? Slippery, so it's going to be much easier to swallow. So all 3 of those components together. Now, one of the things that we had said, if you are drinking soda or pop, okay, whichever way you want to look at it, is it okay to just drink pop on its own? Well, of course it's okay, but it's maybe not the best idea. So if you can use a straw, fine. But when's the best time to be drinking pop? Why is that? Yes. So it's not stuck to your teeth, and the components of the saliva will just do this. It helps cleanse and cleans the teeth. Okay? So when we say cleanse them, it keeps them clean. Why is something like Pepsi and Coke or coffee such a problem? Because it's going to stain them. If you are actually having food with that, as you're producing that saliva, it's going to help keep them clean. Okay. this is a long list of, well, I don't know what you consider long list. I would say 3 for sure, okay? And who's taking medical terminology in here? Is it nobody? Or was that one of the seniors last hour, I think? Because wasn't she working on that?
Both of them and then Krista.
Okay. Well, she took hers last year. Carissa did. So both of them. So what is it about this that you could look at this word amylase and say, okay, I know that's an enzyme, even if you didn't have any further context? Amylase. How do you know that is an enzyme by looking at it other than someone telling you that it's an enzyme? Yeah, because of the suffix. Because if you have amylase, you have lipase is another one, and you also have pancreatic amylase. Why would we have to say pancreatic amylase? Because it's produced and secreted from your pancreas. Okay. I want to make sure that we get to the stomach. I think that's going to be fairly easy to do because we just have a little bit more to talk about with that of the salivary glands. Saliva or salivary, however you want to refer to these structures. And it's a very specific way of looking at these types of terms. We've only said this about the liver and the gallbladder. Which one of those secretes bile?
No, it secretes from your liver into.
So when you look at those two terms, why do we say bile is secreted from the liver, not secreted from your gallbladder?
Because the gallbladder doesn't have a specific function to secrete.
Correct. If you're going to say if a gland is secreting a substance, that means that specific gland has produced it. That's what we mean by secretion. Okay? So you could say when you get warm, your sweat glands secrete a watery substance because it's produced there. Your liver will secrete the bile because that's what produces it. The gallbladder does not produce it. As you said, it stores the components. Right. Okay, so that's why we say this is secreted, because these glands then will actually produce that type of enzyme. So do you suppose, is it an advantage to having more than one set of salivary glands? Of course. Can you survive without all 3 sets of salivary glands, do you think? Yes, you can. Okay? Because unfortunately, people who may choose to possibly smoke and smokeless something. Okay? And smokeless tobacco. It's a term that no one wants to hear, and that's one that starts with a C, and it's cancer. So sometimes what can happen, if you need to get rid of that cancer, a surgeon may have to remove a lot of these materials, and that's the only way that you can get rid of that cancer to keep it from spreading. So some people may lose an entire side of their mouth or their cheek where some of these can be stored then.
Does that just mean that their food's gonna take longer to
If they're losing their teeth, they might have to make an adaptation to or adapt to a liquid diet, which is perhaps quite possible too. But chances are, okay, and when you say, could it possibly take longer? I think that could be accurate because of the last set of salivary glands.
So it could take longer to digest?
Because you're just not producing as much, correct. And I would say it takes longer for the initiation to take place. I think that would be a better way of talking about that. Okay, and then finally, the last set. So when you look at this term, submandibular and sublingual, how is this prefix going to help you identify where these are at? So if in your skin, what do you suppose it might mean for a subcutaneous layer? Yeah, it's going to be located under a point of reference or under a structure. So in this case, we're talking about under the mandible or submandibular. And in this case, it's not at the floor of your mouth. That's again your submandibular, sublingual, and thyroid. These are located all the way back up in here. This is probably the one that you can feel with the flap in your cheek over here. Okay. Then where does that get us to the stomach? It does. Okay. So one of the things I want to start talking about now, this won't take very long because this is something that will come full circle. Not only just this chapter, but also within the endocrine system as well. Okay. Because we know, what is it that amylase breaks down? I feel bad. I was picking on you the other day. I really feel bad about that. Where's your mini tricks?
Right here.
Oh, I thought maybe you gave them back to the daycare kid you took them from.
Oh, no.
Oh, so there's, oh no, I would not give them back? You wouldn't? No, okay. But, well, you can have those if you want them. I mean, you don't have to keep them in your backpack. Okay. See, this is about the point you're supposed to be thinking in the back of your mind. You need to be picking on somebody else. So just look around. Who would that be? No one? See, this is where you can say thanks to your classmates. You said, don't pick on anybody else. Okay? I'm going to stop now. Okay. So what is it that amylase breaks down? What does it say specifically? That's just a component of it. Starch, okay? This is something that's going to, again, come full circle, is that when we look at starch, okay, these are like links of a chain, okay? Okay, and I'll just draw individual ones over here. One of those is starch, the other one is glucose. Which side do you think is which?
Starch is the right. Starch is the left.
Starch is the left. Glucose is there.
So why are you right?
Because starch is going to be harder to break down because they're closer together.
Oh, you're not far off. Starch is a really big compound, okay? because if that's what starch is over here, these must be individual what then, is what you had said. Okay? So when we just do this, okay? Oops, GL, GL. So that's what this means. These are individual glucose molecules. Okay? And then when we start linking them together, is where you get your different types of starches, and your body works like this. Okay? What does the pancreas secrete besides lipase? We said that earlier. There's pancreatic amylase and there's pancreatic lipase. Okay? And which one of those do you think could possibly have a part in breaking glycogen down? And of course, these are your individual glucose molecules. Because one of the things that happens is as blood sugar levels are on the rise, okay, there's a lot of these individual glucose molecules floating through the blood. So one of the things that would happen is your brain and your body's going to sense we need to lower that blood sugar level, okay? So what happens is one of two things your body is going to do. What else does the pancreas produce and secrete besides the lipase and amylase? It's a hormone, not an enzyme. We've said it, we've never wrote it down yet. It's in the I, starts with an I. Insulin. Insulin is a hormone. Okay? So what happens is insulin blood sugar levels by making, or yeah, we can say making glycogen. So what happens is all these individual glucose molecules all of a sudden start to link together and forms a long starch structure called glycogen. So that is going to cause your blood sugar levels to go down. That's one way of doing it. Insulin also to intake, I don't like intake, to what do we mean by to be burned, do you think? Say that again. You mumbled that.
Yeah, I was,
Because you saw, that's really, because that's what I got out of that.
yeah, that's about right.
See, that I got. So, what do you think we mean by to be burned? Is it getting hot by temperature-wise?
Worked off.
Yeah, to be worked off, for your cells to take in and burn that off as energy. Okay? That is going to cause your blood sugar level to go down. Okay? So if it can go down, do you suppose it can go back up again? It sure can. It's a different hormone called this. So it's not going to decrease blood sugar levels. It's going to do what instead, do you think? Okay, so it will increase So one of the things that can also help you, inside this box, what do you suppose that's referring to? Probably glucose. Probably glucose. See if I can spit it out. So then what's going to happen is, if it's going to get in, I can't talk. Now I'm mumbling. This is probably going to increase your blood sugar levels by secreting glucagon, and that glucagon, what's it going to cause this glycogen to do? It's going to break that apart, so then you go back to all your individual glucose molecules, and your blood sugar levels are going to go back up again. And of course, that's monitored by your central computer up here in your brain. And unfortunately, what can happen is sometimes this just does not work the way that it does, and that's called a disorder known as what, perhaps? You've heard of it. Diabetes. Is there just one? There are two types. So which one is malfunctioning, do you think, in this mechanism? Is it type 1 or type 2? Type 2 is your diet. That's right. So type 1 is referring to this. All right. So I think that is enough for today. Next week, we'll start talking about the stomach. Wednesday, I'm going to pencil that in. Evaluation number 2, or vocab quiz number 2. Okay, vocab quiz 2. And then Friday, vocab quiz 3.
Boy, busy week.
Okay? It's unfortunate. Usually, I shouldn't say usually, sometimes it happens. We got to keep rolling, because after September 8th, 9th, 10th, what happens on the 11th to the 15th? It's homecoming week. So, that's all I have. We will catch up to you next time.